Hello, everyone. I'm Matthew Allen, the man who needs a better pop filter, and welcome back to What a Thought. I went to adjust my microphone, and I was looking at it really stupidly. I was like, how come I can't get this to move the way it's supposed to? And then I realized it's because my water was in the way. And I was like, oh, right, you're not allowed to sit here when I move the mic here because it needs to essentially sit directly in front of my face. And you can't do that if there's a big old cup of water right in front of it, which I'm now about to sip, which I should have done 40 seconds ago before I hit record. But at that moment, I wasn't thinking about drinking water. I was just like, yeah, I'm ready to start. I don't fully know all the things I want to talk about today, but there's so many things I could talk about today, which I think is insane. My arms feel weak. What is that about? That could be from walking. You know, like letting your arms naturally swing when you walk. It just sort of kind of it just sort of kind of gets weeks. Weeks? Weeks. It just sort of kind of gets weeks. No, it gets weak, which means I need to do some more exercises for my arms. I'm exercising more. Now that college is done, I know it's wonderful. It's fantastic. And my brain has derailed in the matter of seconds. What were the things I was going to talk about? Uno momento, por favor. I had to, momentarily reset all my thoughts to answer something else that had popped up in front of my face that I needed to respond to. I was talking about my arms. Because exercise, yes, I've started up exercising. I've been walking on treadmill. Not too much. I've just been doing about 30 minutes, but I always try to get a mile in before the 30 minutes. I've just started to use, what you call it. They have, a hill setting on this particular treadmill, which just means it goes up and down. It's not a real hill. That would require way more cool work than a treadmill could ever do, because I think it would be kind of haunting to be on a treadmill that tilts face down and, raises the back end, so it's like you're going downhill, and then it alternates so you're going uphill. That wouldn't work, would it? Since it's a moving surface, I think you would just get hurt. Right? Right? I think you would just get hurt. I'm fairly certain. I'm uncertain now. Now I kind of want to see it. But I feel like it wouldn't work. Do you know what I mean? If you took a treadmill, because, a treadmill is flat. And, when they do, hills, quote unquote, they're incline. It's just the front end tilting up so that you have to, quote unquote, climb upwards. Right? But hills aren't always up. They don't only go up. You eventually have to go down. But normally for a treadmill, all that means is going back to flat, returning to the original position. So I'm just kind of curious what it would be like if, I don't know, a treadmill's back end raised up instead of the front, and you had to go downhill. Because you've got to be more careful when you go downhill, especially on a treadmill, right? Would you have to, balance yourself? Obviously, it wouldn't be able to steep too hard, or else you would just fall. You would lose traction. I kind of want that now. I'm kind of curious about that. That seems like a very fascinating thing. Ironically, this is not something that was written down. I did actually have topics for today. This was just something that came to mind because I exercised, and I've been doing that more often. And it's good to exercise. I know there's a weird sect of people that just kind of thinks exercise is bad, and I think that's dumb. I'm a large dude. I don't mind being a large dude as long as I have the muscle to carry myself, and I, for the most part, have that, but I want more of that. So that's what I'm gonna aim for. It's that's my thing. I get it, but also you shouldn't just. Sorry, I looked directly at my pop filter and there's something on it, which means it came from me? I got distracted. That happens to everyone. I know it happens to everyone. And if you say it doesn't happen to you, you're lying to yourself. You get distracted. We all do. But I'm just trying to build up, trying to bulk, trying to look good, I used to have a lot of really nice different styles of clothing that I used to wear. And I kind of grew out of it because I got a little wide. And now I want to take that wideness and make it bulky, make it framed, You know, that way I can justify the wideness, and then also so I can finally convince myself to buy new clothes. Because I can style myself really nicely. It's happened before. But I can only do it if I commit to how I'm going to look. Because I'm not going to go buy new things and then have it not fit after too long. You know that feeling? I'm sure I'm not the only one who's done that before, where it's like, okay, this item that I've purchased fits this current version of my body, but this current version is not the final version. And so because of that, it's eventually going to not fit. And then I'm going to not be able to wear it, and thus I've wasted money, and now it just sits there and it looks at you. Because there's a whole, like, bag / like, couple of drawers back home of clothing of mine that is like that, where it's just, you don't fit. But I refuse to get rid of you because you not fitting is of my own mistakes. And 2020. I was doing so well till COVID happened. As everyone has probably stated to themselves at least once. So, like, I just want to change that. And then finally get a form that I'm going to commit to and keep active and keep like, going. I was already pretty much active. I never stopped being active. I was just never going to the point like I used to before. And now I want to get back to that, especially now that I'm entering the workforce. That's right. I'm old. I'm kidding. I'm not old, but I did graduate college, which means that my college job is no longer a job I can have, so I have to go get a real job in the real world. And I won't say the one that I'm at the moment hoping to accept once stuff gets forward to me. It's not like I'm waiting on the, like, oh, you've been chosen or you've not been chosen. They have stated very clearly they want me. They just have to go through a process. So I have to, like, get that done. And I'm very excited for that. And that job is going to have a lot of walking, which is very good. It's going to have a lot of moving around, picking things up. So I'm, going to be building back towards that. Not in the same vein as, like, straight exercise would. I'm not going to stop that. I'm going to keep doing that. But, it's going to aid it. And I think I'm going to be all the better for it. But I'm really excited about that. To my aunt, who I know listens, because my mother told me. Hey, how are you doing? It's nice to know that there is a person listening. Sometimes I don't know if anyone ever listens to any of these, but I know I've got one supporter, and that's you. You can't see me do the little, like, chest pound or the peace sign, the, like, thank you. That I don't think anyone has done since 2003. And I also wanted to say that if I ever say something wild, out of pocket, I'm sorry that you had to hear it. Those are just the things that come to my mind when I sit here by myself for 30 minutes with a pair of headphones on my head so that I can't hear myself as well as if there weren't headphones on my head. And everyone else who decides to give away 30 minutes of their time to me has to pay the brunt of that. It's just what it is. Now to the actual list that sits upon my desk in front of me. And by my desk, I do mean my phone. Although I do want to switch over to a physical notebook one of these days. I kind of hate writing things on my phone, like long extended notes. I feel like it's stupid. Most recently, and by most recently I mean about 5 days ago, Tina Turner passed away. For those who did not know, Tina Turner was a musician. She's been around for a long while. I mean, she was getting older, but she is an amazing musician. I feel like most people probably very well know What's Love Got to Do With It, because that's a really good song. And for those weirdos that are Australian, you're not weirdos, I'm just making a joke, and know Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, you also know the song she did for that movie as well. But What's Love Got to Do With It, like this, it's one from the 80s, because every song from the 80s just lives on for forever, because they're amazing. But that's a really good one. But she's a musician, she's been around for a long while. She passed away recently. And I just wanted to, give the shout out, because it's within a period of time in which I can be like, yeah, let me speak about that. I didn't grow up personally with too many Tina Turner songs. I just sort of knew them from like a later point of my life, which is kind of just what occurs with certain music. That's not kind of what happens. I almost said when you have parents from the islands, but that's not true. My parents listen to a weird collection of stuff, as do my siblings. It just wasn't. I feel like she just wasn't a musician that came up as often within the house. Uh, Heard a lot of Beyonce and Sean Paul though, and then eventually Rihanna. But yeah, just want to give her her dues. Same to another gentleman who had passed way back, and I feel like I just forgot to talk about him because I think his death occurred either when I had Kate on as a guest, or I just might have, my brain cells might have just blanked out on it. But it's in my notes, which is really funny. Which means I did remember to write it down. I just forgot to talk about it, and that was Jerry Springer, which is sort of wild. He passed back in April, about a month ago at this point, and I guess I just forgot to talk about him. But Jerry Springer, some people know him as the former mayor of Cincinnati, which I think is very funny. I personally only know him for the Jerry Springer Show, which is kind of fascinating to me. And also the show Baggage, which I kind of forgot existed for a second because that's so wild. It's such a wild show. But the Jerry Springer Show, which for most people is sort of just devolved down to that like Maury style show in its later years, because it ran for a while. Started in 91, ended in 2018. Like I can't do the quick math in my head real quick. Hold on. 9 plus 18 is 27. 27 years. 27 years. My gosh. But I know when it started, it was like a lot more serious. It was more of its own thing, I believe. Before it kind of just doot, you know? But yeah. Like, he passed away as well. So I wanted to give them both their dues. Because, you know, everyone deserves to be remembered. Everyone deserves to be talked about, unless you're just outrightly terrible, in which case then, like, no, but yeah. What else is in the notes for today? Ironically, there's a lot of things in here that are in relation to things that were brought up or talked about back when I was still a student. And it's interesting because my brain says I should discuss them, especially now that I'm not a student. But there's also this part of me that says, but also, who cares? Because I'm not a student. And I like to leave school behind, if that makes sense. But I do have some other stuff I wanted to bring up. So, yeah, you know, I'm going to do that. One of the things that was brought up to me very, very recently was bathrooms that have windows, especially first floor ones. And if you don't know what I mean, if you have a home or you live in an apartment and it's on the main floor, so the first floor, like you walk out your door, you're on the first floor, you're on the main floor. I think it's weird if your bathroom has a window to the outside world in it, even if it can't open. I just think it's weird. I think that's a very uncomfortable place to put a bathroom. I know that for some people it's like a design thing. It like looks nice, especially if they have like the crystallized ones or whatever it is, whatever the word is, like the ones where you can't fully see through it. Like it's a texture that makes everything, like you can see an outline and like a blob, but you can't like make out details the way some weirdos would want to. But I really think it's odd. I've never understood the want to have, like, the ability for someone to just stand outside and look at my blobby form in a bathroom. Even if you put a curtain over it, like, that's still weird. That's like an extra step you now had to take when you could have just not put a window there. Especially if it's a window that doesn't open. Like, if it opens, then I can understand, okay, we're going to let steam outside because, like, the shower and it's a small space. Like, that's one thing. Or it's like, oh, you just have... Sorry, my teeth clinked and my brain couldn't process. Like, you have horrible bowels and you need to be able to have the window open or you will die from your own stench or something. Like, first off, gross. But also, sorry if that's you, whoever you are out there. But... I don't know, cleanse your bowels, eat more vegetables and fibers, something. But, like, it's just such a weird little thing to have. Because why would, like, I will admit, I am afraid of first floor windows. I have been since I was a kid. But mainly, especially if they are in a space where I get uncomfortable about it. Like if it's in a living room, oh well, that's fine. Whatever, it's a living room. But if it's like a bedroom, I get really weird about that. I get really weird about a window because I always feel like there's going to just be someone looking at me. And it makes me uncomfortable. It just makes me be like, ooh, you know? And I don't like it. So like when it's there, I'm just like I can't sleep unless it's covered. That's also a lot of light that comes in, but only if it's on the first floor do I feel weird about it. Second floor, I've always been fine with it. Like there is a bathroom back home that's on the second floor. It's got a big old window in it, and I do not care if that thing is open or not because it's the second floor. If someone really and truly, like it's a teen comedy in 1990, wants to take a ladder up to the window and look into that bathroom, well, firstly, I will just do everything I can to push the ladder down because that's funny. That's that Resident Evil 4 type nonsense. But secondly, that's a person that's already too committed. They're too committed to the crime they are committing. That is of their peeping tomfoolery. They pull out a ladder. But like, where I currently am, this space that I record in, there's a window behind me. There's a window behind me, and it's technically ground level. Like, this space is below ground, and the window is ground level. So someone who looks into it is gonna have to bend down and, like, come up to it. And it's a big window. Like, it's not just, like, a little sliver one that's in most other spaces when they're below ground like this. It is a big one. And that makes me feel weird because it's behind me. But I'm fine with it because this isn't a bathroom. But bathroom ones? Get out of here with that nonsense. I visited a friend way back when, just years and years ago, and their first floor bathroom had a window in it that was uncovered. And one, I thought that was insane. I was like, who's out here, uncovered window, just vibing? Because I would not be vibing. I would not be thriving. I would hate every day of my life. And it was nighttime, so you couldn't really see out of it, but you just know anyone out there could see in. And I was just like, this is the worst experience I've ever had needing to pee in my entire life. Because it's always right next to the toilet. Why? Those ones are always next to the toilet when they're on the first floor. And I don't get it. I don't understand why those design decisions are made. It's insane to me. But yeah, I can't do that. Those toilets are just... Those bathrooms and the way they're built, just, they don't need windows. Now, if someone could give a justified reason for why there is a window, like structurally, or something. Structurally, no, never mind. That would make sense structurally. Having the full wall there is a more compact structure than the window. But I just want to understand the reasoning. Because I don't think there is any, I don't think so. He said multiple times. But it's just sort of wild. What else is in here? I guess I could pull up and talk about digitization? Discussion posts? There's some weird ones in here. There's like, I've got ones from like way back in the day. Back when this first started, that just never got touched on because I was like, I want to look into them. I want to do more research. And I don't have enough brain power to do research back when I wrote them down. And now I have the time and I just haven't done the research. Because I always feel weird about researching preemptively, but I know these are subject matters that I should research on. Because, that's just me. This one's a short one. It should be. It's a funny one. If you have a question for your professor, or your high school teacher, or your middle school teacher, or whoever, you gotta keep your hand raised. Especially college professors. I have taken note that a lot of college professors like to just kind of steamroll information out. And if you don't know what I mean by that, I mean that they like to just be like, here's 20 years worth of info on this particular subject matter in a matter of like 30 seconds, right? Not 30 seconds. Here's 30 years worth of info, and we've given it out to you in like a 5-minute, like, unbroken moment, which doesn't sound long until it occurs. And then you're just kind of like, that's a little long. And there will be students with questions on a part of that info who every single time will put their hand up, and then they'll put it down, and then they will put it up, and they will put it down, because they're waiting for the professor to stop speaking. And I don't think they understand that the professor is not going to stop speaking unless you continue to raise your hand, because every time you put it down, they're going to think that they have just answered whatever you were going to ask and keep going, because their job is to just sort of endlessly spew this piece of information at you over and over until you have a grasping understanding. And if you don't keep your hand up, they're not going to take the moment to pause what they are saying to explain to you. And some people just don't get that. I was in a class, and bless this professor's heart. He's a wonderful man. I've learned some of the best things I've learned for my subject from him. He just talks a lot, and his class is long. But you learn a lot. You learn so much. But the thing is if you don't cut him off, he will not stop. And thus, if you have a question, he will miss it. And there was a student who I watched, because I sat not like in the very back, but I sat close to the back, like the middle of the room kind of, but off to the side, because that's just where I like to sit in that particular classroom. And I watched for like minutes on end over the course of the like multiple hours of this class, this one student raise and lower, raise and lower, raise and lower their hand, and do that weird half thing that people like to do where they put the hand by their face. And it's like, well, are you raising your hand or are you just putting it there? Because it's not a discernible space. Like, you need to put it up. Like, I need you to fully extend your arm 100% up, please, for the love of God. And I just was sitting there witnessing this happen in my peripheral and losing my mind. Raise your hands. Professors get it. Students get it. You have a question, you need it answered. Make it so. Make it so. If the professor does not stop for some reason to answer your question, or they dismiss it, hey, you might just have a terrible professor. But no one else in the class is going to know that. If you don't just raise your hand, do it, please. Get it up there. It blows my mind the way that people do not want to raise their hands and get questions answered by a professor. It's insane to me. And yet they do it. They do it so often. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. And it boggles the mind. And yet here we are. Mind unboggled. No classes. I didn't actually think I was going to talk in that for that long. I always say that, like, I'm like, everything is going to take 10 years and something that's only 30 minutes long. But sometimes it feels that way. But sometimes it just gets out of it just goes, and it goes, because I think it's insane. I think it's insane sometimes. Keep your hand raised. Even in elementary school, like, maybe it's beaten out of us in middle school. I wouldn't remember. That's a decade ago at this point. That's insane. I started middle school a decade ago, right? Because I would have been, 11? I don't know how to do math right now. Yeah, because I turned 14. I turned 14 the year it ended. So I was 13 in 8th grade, 12, and 11. Okay. I turned 11 very close to the start of my middle school journey. So yeah, a decade ago. I don't know where they beat it out of us about raising your hand, but do it. I would much rather someone raise their hand for an extended period of time and get their question answered. And I know that, like, some people don't like to raise their hand because they know if they do, they're going to think about what it is that they wanted to ask and miss whatever the professor might be saying. I think that's okay. I think that's fine. I also know some professors just prefer the student just interrupt. And that's daunting for some people, to just cut off a professor. Because I think that's daunting. I think that's absolutely wild. That's sitting right up there in the craziness as having a bathroom window on the first floor. Just 70 levels of insane. Can you imagine just cutting off a professor? Like, with permission? Like, the professor's just like, yeah, if you have a question, just say it. Just ask. Just do it. No one's going to do that. No one in their right mind is going to do that. And if they do that, it's going to be a white dude with long hair wearing Birkenstocks. Just that guy. And he's always going to sound so cool when he does it, too. He's going to sound like the coolest man. Can you hear me typing? Can you hear me typing? Because it's me looking at Birkenstocks. What did I just do? I accidentally full screened my search window for a second. I was haunted. Yeah, okay, that's the right sandal. Birkenstocks. You know for a fact that's what's on that guy's feet. Absolutely. Clogs? Does Birkenstock make clogs? That's not a clog. Give me a real clog. That's a croc clog. What? Men's Japanese traditional ghetto wooden clog sandals. Oh, that's a very funny Google search that just occurred. When looking for Birkenstocks, found traditional Japanese clog sandals. Oh, that's funny. That's so funny. I've been watching a lot of movies with my spare time, which is nice. It's nice to just kind of catch up on things or rewatch things or whatnot. I finished out the Chucky franchise, which is an insane thing. I finished out all 7 of those movies. They're not that long. They start to become like an hour and a half, which is like wonderful, because Chucky doesn't need to be any longer than that in a movie format. There's no need for him to be. Saw Red Eye finally. Not the Japanese one. The Wes Craven one from 2005. Rewatched Blade. Saw that new Dungeons and Dragons movie. That was nice. That was a fun time. And like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 a while back. All good times. I still stand up by my statement that I put out a long time ago. If y'all want me to do episodes dedicated to just reviewing movies, you gotta tell me. Otherwise, I'm just going to do it whenever I feel like it at my own pace at very random, which means it might happen and it might not. I just listed off a lot of movies, and I don't think I really talked about any of them on the channel in the period of time in which I had seen them. And that's just me looking back at my Letterboxd, which is a fun little thing to have, I'll be honest. I do enjoy having my Letterboxd. It's goofy to me. It's just like, I just use it for the diary function. I might write a review, depending on the movie. I try to do that a little more often now. It makes me feel a little more engaged about what I watched. And I think I blame film professors for instilling that idea into my head, because as a film student, watching something and then taking the time to write on it, even just a little blip, really allows your brain to process beyond what you've seen, to think about more of what you've witnessed. It might make you think about the writing, the directing, the way things were portrayed on the screen, just all those little aspects that you might not think about otherwise. And I think it's kind of wonderful. But I think I'm going to go ahead and bring this podcast to a close. Sorry, my brain started to picture those bathrooms. Why would you put a window in the first floor, especially ones that aren't crystallized, so you have to cover it, or someone can just see your bits and bobs? Haunting. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. If you liked it, make sure to check out the Linktree link that's down in the description, because if you do, it's going to take you to everything else. It's going to take you to the other YouTube channel, The Soloist, which contains its own set of games videos. That's right. Everything started here because I like to play video games, and because I didn't want to put the Whatta channel stuff on the same channel as The Soloist, because that felt odd to me. It just didn't feel like the right thing to do. You can also find the Twitch, which I stream there currently 4 days a week, but with the job incoming, that might change, or the times might adjust. I don't know yet. It will really depend on how I feel once I get into the groove of things, like if I'm going to be too exhausted to pull out 4 days. We'll just have to see how it goes. So yeah. Oh, all my social medias on there as well. You can catch me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. I promise I will. I promise. Here's me saying it right now. I promise I will try to post more to TikTok. I promise. There's like 6 things on there. I don't post often enough to get a crowd of people. But my goal is to try to get at least a TikTok up every week. Just one. And it's probably going to just be a clip from a video that I think is funny. Okay? I will try. You have my word. Anyways, also check out everything else that's just here on Whatta channel, you know? It's all fun. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. I've been Matthew Allen. This has been Whatta Thought. Tune back in next week for part 2 of Twilight. But until then, I'll see ya.